I'd like to welcome you here this evening to this special council meeting. It's a one-item agenda and one which I feel is very important. Before I start, I would like to, on your behalf, pass on condolences to our Chief Executive, Alison, on the death of her uncle, Patsy McCullough, from Formal Greencastle. And I know I'm just going to go around the leaders. So if I go to Debbie first.
I'm going to actually, well, from Sinn Féin, we'll pass on our condolences, but Barry wants to say a few words, Alison.
Okay.
Thank you, Debbie. Just again, on behalf of our group and in association with our group leader, Debbie, to pass on our condolences to Alison, who was very close, obviously, to her uncle, Patsy, and very respected man in the Greencastle, Mid-Tyrone area. Very quiet man, but just to hear people talk about him today on the margins of the funeral, you know he was very, very highly respected. So that's us as a group expressing our condolences. Cove Own Cree.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor Victor Warrington online.
Thank you, Chair. Well, obviously, on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party, we send our condolences to Alison on the death of her uncle. I suppose, you know, deaths are always very difficult, and I think this was an unmarried uncle, and so therefore probably there's no doubt that there was quite a close relationship there between Alison and her uncle. So as I say, deepest condolences from our party. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Victor. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor David Mahon.
Thank you, Chairman. And as Paul is away tonight, it falls to me to pass on the condolences from my colleagues and myself of the DUP to Alison on the passing of your uncle. We will indeed keep you in our prayers at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And I'm going to go to Councillor Bernard McGrath online.
Thank you, Chair. And also on behalf of the SDLP, we'd like to express our sympathy to Alison and her wider family circle on the passing of her uncle. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And next, I'm going to go to Councillor Stephen Donnelly in the chamber.
Thank you, Chair. And likewise, on behalf of the Alliance Party, I'd like to express my condolences to Alison and her family. I think that on a day such as this, I certainly wouldn't have been surprised, and certainly I would probably have advised that you maybe take the evening off. But the fact that you're here, Alison, really is a credit to your professionalism, and I just want to express just my total condolences, just this really difficult time, and my thoughts are with you in the forthcoming weeks.
Thank you. I don't believe Josephine's online. No, she's not. Okay. So, and again, I'd like to just concur with what Barry had said. I was up at the wake last night and I heard some wonderful stories about Patsy. I briefly met him on a few occasions. I'll not explain why, but and it wasn't for a bad reason. But I did speak to him on a few occasions, and it was quite strange when you actually see somebody and realise that you had met them before. So it was quite enlightening for me. So and to hear the great stories and the way that he traditionally farmed and the unique way that he farmed was something special for somebody like me who's interested in history. So.
No, Chair, just thanks to you, to members, for your kind comments, for your attendances as well. And it's certainly an end of an era for us, but a life well lived, and certainly with very many happy memories. And I suppose I should just say for the record, he was always known, Greencastle, there's the tradition of names, so he'd have been known as Patsy Johnny Pat. Probably very few would know him as Patsy McCullough. So thank you, and again, thanks, Chair.
Okay, so first item on the agenda is apologies, and I'm going to Debbie for those.
And just Thomas O'Reilly.
Thank you.
Unless he's online, I can't see, but I think he's away on holiday, so I don't think he'll be joining us.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few on breaks. Next we'll go Victor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Robert Irvine.
Thank you, Victor. And next we'll go Councillor David Mahon.
You, Chair, Councillor Robertson and Councillor Hawkes.
Thank you, David. Debbie, you come back in again?
Sorry, Anne-Marie Fitzgerald as well.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Next, I'll go to Stephen here in the chamber.
Councillor Roof is just travelling from work. He'll be joining online.
Okay, thank you. And Bernard online.
Councillor Gallen, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Bernard. Sorry, I didn't, Garvin, I see you're on there as well, so apologies. I don't know what the hierarchy is, so Bernard was the first one on the list. And I think there is apologies in from Josephine, is there? Or is she online? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Obviously, this is a very important meeting, and I thank the councillors that brought this forward. I feel this is something that we had to do. So it was quite an easy decision to make that we hold this special council meeting. This morning, myself and Anne went to Stormont, and we were met with politicians from all levels within the Stormont grouping. First of all, the Minister, Kiva Archibald, had a meeting with us. We were joined by Michelle O'Neill, closely followed by John O'Dowd, Mike Nesbitt, Naomi Long, Gordon Lyons, and Conor Murphy. So, and then after that, we were joined outside by a vast array of MLAs and various others. So that's the seriousness this has been viewed at by across the political spectrum in Northern Ireland. And it's been seen as an attack on a rural community, because we're the ones that are losing out the most. We are the ones who are going to benefit the most from this, and we're the ones that it's going to affect the most. Also, we're 10 days in, and the press seems to have forgotten about it. This here should be a major headline, that £250 million is being dragged out of a rural community, and the loss is going to be a massive hit on our residents. And I feel strongly about that. I think the press need to join with us in condemning this and making people aware. I'm going to pass over to Anne, who's going to give you an update on the technical bits that we covered at Stormont, and then we'll open up the debate. Sorry, Anne. Yeah, what's it, 44? Yeah, I got it now. I'll go again. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. So basically, I suppose we met this morning with Minister Archibald, and I suppose a lot of the other ministers joined us during the course of the meeting, and I suppose it was quite impressive to see just the number of ministers that actually joined the meeting. And the meeting, I suppose, there were representatives there from Mid-South West, and also Causeway Coast and Glens, because they are also affected by this decision to pause the funding for this particular, for the growth deal. So I suppose, first of all, the Minister Archibald outlined the work that she's been doing to, I suppose, lobby to try and get the pause lifted on the growth deal. And then, and she's going to continue to do that. But I suppose she emphasised the need for keeping the momentum in terms of media coverage, that, you know, it is important to keep this this pause in funding to the fore in terms of you know, media coverage. And I know that Mid-South West is certainly, they had engaged Brown O'Connor to do some work in terms of the signing of the heads of terms, and they now are working on like a communication strategy to try and make people aware of the fact that this funding has been paused. In terms then of Department for Finance, Gillian Gilmore, who works with the department, has been in contact with the Treasury to ask them, I suppose, what sort of information they will need from us. So I suppose there's two levels. There's the whole media coverage, and we have to keep, you know, try and get more media coverage, but then we have to prepare a response, I suppose, for our response to the Treasury. So I suppose that is generally going to be about the need and about the benefits of this investment, and they'll want to see really just what the impact, I mean, they will want to see just I suppose they'd really need to understand our area, and I suppose we will invite the Secretary of State and government officials or whatever to come and actually see the local area, to understand our projects. They need to really understand the projects and the impact that they will have on the local area. So Gillian will be working with us, and it is expected that there'll be a meeting very shortly to try and to gather the information required once she gets a steer from Treasury as to how we should maybe shape that response. We have got our the strategic outline case approved for the Culca Lakelands project, and John can go into more detail on the projects that have been included under that heading. And the SOC for that project was very detailed. So we're hoping that the need is certainly spelt out in the SOC, and I suppose the benefits. We may need to do some more work once we hear back from Gillian on what's required, but we should have most of that detail there. So I suppose we really have to sell the deal once we hear from Treasury, and the challenge is to keep this pause on the media for the next 5 or 6 weeks. That's not going to be easy. That's a big challenge for everyone to be able to do that there. And I suppose really this decision will be taken by the UK government, by Treasury, but the Secretary of State probably, will have an important part in that decision-making process. So I suppose we'll have to emphasise in our response the investment taken by Council to date, and we have spent considerable time and money in preparing the SOC, and also I suppose then the whole, the urban versus the rural, and the fact whether Treasury appreciate it or not, this is definitely affecting rural areas. The urban, the two city deals are in place, but the rural areas have, isn't essentially getting, well, at this minute it's paused, so there's no funding for rural areas. Alison, I had a call with NIO, and maybe she could comment on that, but they are generally supportive of this here. And I suppose all the government departments at the local level here, at the executive, they're definitely very supportive. And I think they will work with us. But there is a lot of work to be completed over the next few weeks to provide positive evidence of the need for this investment in our local area. So, John, if I've missed something, you can.
No, I think Anne has covered it. Again, it was big emphasis on the press, with as much help as we can get from the press. Especially, it just dropped off whenever they heard that the two urban centres were going to retain their money, and then they just forgot about the rural areas that were losing out. Was definitely my reading behind it. So they need to get behind us in the rural areas as well. So I'm going to bring in apologies to everybody. In my rush to get this started, I forgot to ask of anybody any declarations of interest. Rather than mess up my things in the chamber, if anybody has one, they can put their hands up, and again online, and I'll give you 30 seconds. Is that a declaration of interest, Earl, or?
Well, Chair, I suppose technically it should be declared an interest as a member of the Mid-South West steering group. But however, it's vitally important that we be allowed to speak if we need to. So I'm not going to bother, and I don't think anybody else should either at this stage. Thank you.
No, I wouldn't have thought that was a declaration of interest, if you don't mind. I think it's more important than that. So I'm going to go to Councillor Barry McElduff. Bernard is, no, he's taking his hand out. So I'm going to go to Councillor Barry McElduff.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I would like to commend you and our interim director for your efforts today, this very day. I have a proposal, and the proposal would be as follows. Fermanagh and Omagh District Council considers the British government's decision to pause funding for all city and growth deal projects totally unacceptable and deplorable. And I'll speak to the reasons why I'm saying that, but to continue the proposal, this decision is a major blow to our local economy, local businesses, the FODC council area, and the Mid-South-West region as a whole. And I'll come to an action point now, after saying that the city and growth deal funding has represented a significant investment in our region and would have game-changing outcomes for regeneration, creating good jobs, and unleashing our full economic potential. So the actions that I would propose with the support of the Sinn Féin group, our council will write to the British Secretary of State, Hilary Benn, to the British Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, urging them to immediately reverse this decision and to reinstate all city and growth deal funding. And I'm just noting, I'm paraphrasing now, that the urban deals have been reinstated, the rural ones haven't. And we do strongly stand over the rural discrimination point. And just to conclude on the action points, we should also write to An Taoiseach Simon Harris TD. After all, he's the co-guarantor of the Good Friday Agreement, asking him and his government to intervene with the British government on our area's behalf. And we also should be exploring options of Irish government funding, mindful that the British government seems at this time to be on the path of discriminating against our area. So the proposal is contained therein, the action points is contained therein. But if we could just make a couple of additional comments. Tom Collins wrote in the Irish News last week that this British Labour government is not even promising jam tomorrow. That's what he said. And I was talking to Councillor Hayes earlier, and she reminded me that Hilary Benn got 5 minutes today at the British Labour Party conference. Such is the priority devoted till the north. Now, another thing that I would have some insight into, and so would others, Councillor Feely, John Feely would have insight into this as well from her group, and Councillor Green, is the amount of effort that has gone into the Mid-South-West growth deal in professional terms is quite staggering. This preparation work has been going on for years at a high level of effort from professional people across the board and collaboration between three councils. So this is simply unacceptable. You know, we've heard mention of Coolca from an OMA point of view. I'm obviously looking forward to the financial injection to the Ulster American Folk Park. I'm hoping that, and I would seek reassurance that the site for industrial land in OMA is not a prisoner to this type of thing. You know, that it's going to come mainstream, it's going to come from the mainstream government, not necessarily through this programme. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor Debbie Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. So firstly, I want to second Barry's proposal in seeking this urgent clarification and from the British government that will allow us to continue to implement activity in progress heads of term signing on the 16th of October as originally was going to happen. It's an absolute disgrace that the Mid-South-West deal is one of two that will be subject to this pause and review without any explanation provided. All MSW councils have worked tirelessly, investing significant resources over the last number of years to develop a targeted suite of 12 infrastructures, regeneration, tourism, innovation and digital projects for inclusion in the growth deal. These will be transformative and drive the economic potential of the region, and it will help to address the regional imbalances, especially in rural areas, as Barry's already said. Anything less than a reversal is a betrayal and is unacceptable. And I agree with the chair, especially regarding the local press that could have had this splashed all over the paper last week, but chose not to. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Debbie. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think that it goes without saying that this represented a massive regenerative opportunity for our region, with the chance to be able to make real strides forward in terms of our infrastructure, in terms of our tourism product, in terms of our economic development, from the Ulster American Folk Park to Culca, and many other projects that people were working hard on to try and get off the ground for the benefit of all of our people. And the fact that this has been totally upended so brutally is outrageous. And I think that it is worth placing in context the fact that it was said that this new government wished to reset relationships with this part of the world, and indeed with the devolved spheres as a whole. And I can't think of a more cack-handed way in which that aspiration could have been handled than by coming in here and utterly demolishing the aspirations and bulldozing through the hard work that has been ongoing for a significant period of time by elected representatives, local councils, and indeed local stakeholders who are working hard to try to bring this to fruition. And I suppose if I were to make two observations, Chair, it would be this. Firstly, and I would absolutely fully agree with Anne that we have to put our best foot forward in terms of making sure that we get our case ready. We make sure that we put forward our arguments in terms of the need in this district, from its isolation to the levels of deprivation and significant need that exists, and the rural dynamic that is there. But the point that I would make, while stressing that we make that case, is that why was it that Derry and Strabane in Belfast were not made to jump through the hoops that we are now going to have to jump through? And absolutely, they should never have to. This should never have been about that, because ultimately we had agreements. We had deals that were entered into on a solemn basis with a commitment, with people willing to invest time, energy, and resources to be able to bring them to fruition. There was a remark that was made earlier that I think demonstrated just how utterly farcical the situation has become, which was the words, "We have to sell the deal to them." This is their deal. It may have been a deal that was signed under a different government, but ultimately there was never any opposition or any hesitation or any reservation expressed whatsoever about the viability and the capacity to deliver these. And there was a commitment and there was an expectation that no matter who was going to be in government, that it would be delivered upon. So this is something that has massive relevance and implications for the well-being and the future of our residents. And we have to make sure that we are loud in this, that we continue to provide a voice in this, and that we say very clearly that it doesn't matter whether you live in a rural growth area or an urban one, that ultimately we have the opportunity, we deserve to have the opportunity to have that investment and to have that opportunity for our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Stephen. And next we go to Councillor Stephen McCann in the chamber.
Thank you, Chair, and just support the motion, obviously, and commend yourself and others who were up in Stormont today, obviously leading from the front in this issue. I do agree with you in your comments that this can be perceived as an attack on our local community, rural discrimination, for sure. It's a completely short-sighted move, I think, by the British government to withdraw this or pause this investment. Obviously, to create economic growth and regeneration, you need to invest in that. It just doesn't happen overnight. And to pause this sort of funding, it's hard to believe what they're thinking or what their rationale is. There is a disparity, and it has been shambolic, I suppose, Chair, from the start, from the way it was announced on the Friday evening, in the late evening, and then all growth deals had been suspended, and then maybe one might go ahead, and then one might go ahead, then two might go ahead. So it's been a shambolic process from the start. I do welcome the commitment by the Finance Minister that she will continue to lobby those responsible for this to get this pause overturned. And I just agree with Anne that considerable time and money has been invested in this to date. And, we must keep going, I suppose, in terms of getting this pause overturned. Just one question. I wonder if we can just maybe hear, I suppose, in terms of melanoma perspective, what projects might have been or might be now in jeopardy, I suppose, and what the implications of this pause would mean for our district.
Okay, I think I'll take a few more comments, Stephen, and then I'll let Alison's going to reply to that, but that will be part of her reply. So next, I'm going to Councillor David Mahon in the chamber.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for facilitating this meeting here this evening, and indeed thank the members for proposing the meeting here this evening. This fantastic piece of work. Chairman, I suppose it's no surprise that it was my party that was instrumental in securing a series of these city and growth deals for Northern Ireland a while back. And these packages of funding were to help regional areas, just like our own, leverage additional investment and support job creation and deliver economic growth. Across Northern Ireland, more than 1.3 billion was to be invested in a range of exciting projects to promote new technologies, centres of excellence, and world-leading research, and see national and local government work in partnership with local universities and private sectors to transform our economy. This is a massive amount of money that we are, at the moment, seeing what we're not getting. 252 million. You know, to put that in context, that's 5 to 6 times our overall council budget for the year. That's the amount of money we're talking about here. And it's been suggested the projects at risk, you know, the A4 bypass, the job at Culca, the folk park, all of those things in jeopardy, things that people have spent long and hard time pushing forward. So as I'm sure other parties are the same, we will remain fully committed to the growth deal and to the seizing its vital opportunities to address decades of underinvestment, redress regional imbalances, and to maximise the wide range of benefits that this investment would bring to our region and to the people who live and work and indeed visit here. We heard a lot over the last few years about Tory cuts, and certainly they were there. And we believe the funding mechanism for Northern Ireland is not fit for purpose. That's why our party leader, Gavin Robertson, has been working hard for a long period of time now to try and get the funding formula for Northern Ireland addressed. We now have a Labour government with a historic majority. Let's be clear, Labour has the strength and the space to make significant and strategic changes across the UK. They have the numbers, they have the power. It's Labour alone who have paused this growth deal. Regrettably, in the first 2 months in power, if it has shown us anything, is that sometimes strength is not always good. They had the power to protect pensioners, yet they choose to force many pensioners to decide whether they're going to eat or to be warm this winter. They had the power to develop and enhance these city deals further and growth deals, yet they threw it into jeopardy. It seems to me that this new Labour government's first 2 months could only be described as a false dawn. This may only be the start of the problems heading our way. And what would the impact be in the upcoming budget now coming forward? I know, as others will be as well, their MPs will be working hard to get this resolved. Our MLAs in Stormont, even one of our own MLAs here, Deborah Erskine MLA, raised it 3 times in questions last week. It's just not acceptable. And I would go further than just writing letters. I propose that a delegation or somebody actually goes and looks to get speaking to the people in power over there. This is too big of an issue for us to let slip through our fingers. It just amazes me how any government coming in newly into power would put a wrecking ball through these growth deals. It just doesn't stand up to sense whatsoever. So as I say, we, our party, demand that the pause be lifted immediately, and I would propose that a delegation goes to meet with the Prime Minister, whoever would see us, as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I have personal feelings on that. I think we should be looking them to come and see the problems we have, because whilst we're going there and telling them about it, a picture paints 1,000 words, and I think if we could get the Chancellor and the Prime Minister to come over and just see the real problems we have and the difference this money could make to us. But we'll work around both, but we'll leave that when we get to it. I'm going to reassure the councillors online. I've been noting when you've been coming in, so it's going to start to go back and forward a wee bit now after Seamus speaks. Any councillors online, you need your cameras on as part of the new rules. I know your internet may not be up to, otherwise you can be just in somebody who's monitoring, but you can't participate or vote if your camera isn't on all the time. So just to warn any councillors online. And next I'm going to, sorry Seamus, you always seem to fall for me on my wee rambles. Seamus, Councillor Seamus Green.
Thanks, Chair. I suppose the last speaker there, I almost have to respond to that rewriting of history by Councillor by David there, where The Tory government busted the country, aided and abetted by the DUP. If they're talking about whatever money they got on some kind of a deal with them, the Tory government cut 10 times more than that from the budgets coming to the north. So they were taken with both hands and given back tiny crumbs from the table. So I don't think there's just as big of a win as was being let on there. Now, that's not taking anything away from what the Labour government has done. And I suppose we all, at a time when we seen Keir Starmer being elected, he always had the appearance of a Tory. He's now acting like a Tory. So I guess he's a Tory, but in the guise of a Labour Party leader. The 250 million that has been cut from this region, as has been said before, the press just ignored it. They were too busy slagging off the council and individual councillors, you know. But that's another story. We'll leave it at that. But we take priorities. The Labour government has come in, and the first thing they done was cut 3 billion from the pensioners for the winter fuel allowance. Then they come in and they cut the growth deal to rural areas. They have the what do you call it? The defence minister today in the Labour Party conference promised £3 billion per year for as long as it takes into the future to fund the war in Ukraine. But just imagine that, like, you know, there is an endless pot of money to keep war going on instead of trying to get it solved through diplomatic channels. But no, 3 billion per year. I'm sure that's index links too. Then we go to the other mind-blowing project that they're committing to, £300 billion to replace the Trident nuclear weapons. Something that, if they're ever used, 99.9% of the people on the planet will never see the next day. It's actually mind-blowing that that's the standard, and that's the standard of politicians that is continuously voted in, wasting taxpayers' money, but the taxpayers seems to vote them in. So I don't know where we go with that. But then again, this government was voted in with 34% of the people that's actually allowed to vote. So what is that? I don't know what that's. 66% of the people voted against them, but they have a massive majority. So is democracy broke? But I'm ranting now on it. But democracy seems to be broke when these people can come in with 34% of the people that voted and bring in austerity like that and decide on decisions like that with a massive majority in the House of Commons. It's actually disgraceful. It's shameful. The Labour Party should hold their head in shame that they have a leader and chancellor with these type of views. Maybe some of their leaders back the time they brought the National Health Service when they first created it would probably hold their head in shame at what's taking place at the minute.
Thank you, Seamus. I'm going to go to our first online contributor, and that's Councillor Victor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I suppose I agree with a lot of what's been said tonight. I don't agree with everything, obviously, and I think it's sad to a degree where we still see a bit of political nitpicking and barging at one another at a time when we should all be coming together as a council with one voice to basically to fight these cuts which has been hit. There was a word used there which I thought we wouldn't have heard again by Councillor Green, and that was austerity. I thought that was the last we ever heard of that word, because we used to hear it quite a bit while the Conservatives were still in government. But if it proves anything, it just proves that regardless of which government is in power in the United Kingdom, they don't really care that much about us over here, and that's to a degree that's sad. You know, we need to certainly continue to fight for this, because you know it was going to make such a difference to so many things, especially things in our own council area. And I suppose one of the big ones was going to be the Enniskillen bypass, which is needed so much for individuals who go into town, which I did for many a year, travelled into Enniskillen in the mornings and seen the backlog of traffic which was there. So we certainly need that. We certainly need to, as for, you know, the media has been mentioned here today, and, you know, the media doesn't seem to like stories that are important, that rather, as Councillor Green has alluded to, that rather store up non-stories, and certainly we've seen a few of those in the last locally in the last couple of weeks, and again that is sad, because we need certainly as much assistance from all people as we can get on this deal, because this deal is going to help everyone. You know, it's going to be a big help to tourism. It's going to be a big help to infrastructure, and it's important that we fight this as a together council and move forward that way. Chair, I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Next, we're going to go to Councillor Patrick Withers. And for those who don't believe me, on my account, I think Patrick can concur with the support that we were getting from across the whole spectrum at the Stormont this morning.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can share that sentiment. It was wide-scale support across the political spectrum in Stormont this morning. This decision to suspend the Mid-South West Growth Deal again highlights the need for political power to be in the hands of those who are elected by people here. This decision shouldn't just be looked in isolation. It follows a pattern of political and economic decisions made by elected representatives in England, regardless if they're Labour or Tory, which are particularly detrimental to our region, and indeed doesn't prioritise working class people in general. You can see that from the decision by the Chancellor to cut the winter fuel payments for pensioners in Britain and in the North. Another decision foisted upon us was Brexit, of course, and that continues to play out in daily business. Just one example is currently playing out is how the British government have failed to replace EU funding. That means we're currently looking at a £30 million shortfall between what existed under EU funding and what exists today with their replacement fund. And there's no guarantee what will happen after March 2025. And that was the funds that continue to support those who seek employment, gain skills, and get back into the jobs and employment market. And that continues to be a situation that's detrimental to us. In contrast, we have seen ongoing commitments from the Irish government through the Shared Island Fund, where that be investing on training courses for nurses or in infrastructure projects such as the A5. And just to be clear, I make that point not for any reasons of national identity, but the reality is that those who are not elected here do not have the interests in our infrastructure, our public services, or the welfare of our people. And of course, there is an alternative to being at the mercy of decisions made by politicians in England, and that's whenever we have the power resting in the hands here in Ireland. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Patrick. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor Earl Thompson online.
Thank you very much, Chair. And first of all, can I congratulate our council delegation and all involved in the Mid-South-West for going to Stormont this morning. And you're talking about media there. The only media I seen cover it was ITV just earlier on this evening there. So maybe there's a question for others there as well. But as the immediate past chair of the Mid-South-West Growth Deal Steering Group, we were in a meeting in Craigavon Civic Centre last Tuesday evening, and all parties and all the officers were united in their condemnation of what was taking place in the pausing of the Mid-South-West Growth Deal. If you only have to look at a map of Northern Ireland, where you have, it's half the province, and then put that as well, along with the Causeway Coast and Glens piece, that's a massive piece of Northern Ireland that's been left out here. And that cannot be underestimated by any means. I want to, it is just a pity, as Councillor Warrington has said there, it's a pity there was a few divisive comments there, but I'm not going to get involved in that. We were united at the Mid-South-West, and we should be united today, as others have mentioned, at Stormont. Everyone was united and pushing us forward, that we try our best to secure what we need. The Mid-South-West and Causeway Coast and Glens, the two that are left out are paused at this moment in time. So let's move forward together in a united way and be positive about it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Earl. And next I go to Councillor John Feely in the chamber. Sorry, John.
Thank you, Chair. Yep. When it comes to the priorities of Westminster governments going back centuries, Man and South Tyrone are at the very bottom. It's over 100 years ago since a fellow called Churchill was talking about the dreary steeples of Fermanagh and Tyrone. Go back to 1979, and one MP had the power to give a Labour government an extra year in government or to send it into the political wilderness for 17 years. It was Fermanagh South Tyrone MP Frank Maguire, and Jim Callaghan, the Prime Minister of England, wouldn't give one concession to him. He'd prefer to let his party go into the political wilderness for 18 years. It was 1997 before he got back to power. You've seen what British governments thought of Fermanagh and Tyrone during the Brexit vote and the negotiations. We were just forgot about, ignored. And you see what the new Prime Minister of England thinks of Fermanagh and Tyrone now. And it's no surprise. What is a surprise is our own media in the north are just ignoring this. I can almost understand how papers in Belfast, once Belfast and Derry and Strabane got the growth deals reprieved, be forgot about, but the local papers should have been on the front page last week on both papers, just completely ignored. And we're talking about projects worth 30 million, the A4 bypass, Enniskillen. Talking about 20 million projects for the Polka Lakelands and for the also American Folk Park. This is massive for our area. And even the projects in our neighbouring councils like Mid-Ulster, you've got the Green Innovation Park, and you've got the Agri Biodiversity that Caffrey's working on. They're also going to be a benefit here. Like we are talking about massive differences to the people in Fermanagh and Homer, Fermanagh and South Tyrone, and not a peep out locally. And that's why it's so important we have this meeting here, we discuss it, and we get a plan, move forward. And Councillor Mahon's idea of delegations, not a bad idea, to be honest with you. Whether or not it's through the auspices of just the council or through the auspices of the Mid and Southwest growth deal itself. But if it's through the auspices of the Mid and Southwest group, you'll be asking it that it's equally divided between the three council areas to make sure that if there is meetings, that there's equal representation. And as the chair said, even better to get them here than for us to go over there, But any idea here is a good idea, and I recommend that we listen to everything and do just fight this as hard as we can. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, John. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor Bernard McGrath online.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, as a member of the Mid-Southwest Growth Deal, I have to say I'm very disappointed. Still quite hopeful that, that they have paused this, it is paused, and I have to agree with Anne regarding the media. We have to keep this front and centre. And I'd like to thank John, our chairman, today, and the delegation, and Councillor Savage, chair of Mid-Southwest, who spoke very well at Stormont today. And the SDLP will be lobbying our own MPs, Colm Eastwood and Claire Hanna, to keep the pressure on the Treasury. I think this is very important. And, at a time when, we're just about to sign heads of terms in October, and I still think that the deadline is going to be kept. Like these are massive projects, as speakers have said, the A4 bypass, Calca, and something very close to myself, the Ulster American Folk Park. So, yeah, I agree with Councillor McAduff's proposal and Councillor McMahon as well. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Baron. Next, we go to Councillor Diana Armstrong online.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I concur with a lot that has been said earlier. I mean, this was an outstanding achievement to pull together a Mid-Southwest deal in collaboration with the other two regions. And it would have ensured, in its full format, it would have ensured an exciting growth and future, particularly for our young people. There was the potential there to have better paid jobs for our young people to remain in the area, and in particular where our strengths are, to see infrastructure development and also tourism and even agri-foods, robotics. So to have the carpet pulled from under our feet at this late stage is really, it's breathtaking, and it has a massive impact on our district. So I fully support the proposals to challenge this further. I do agree that the press really needs to look at this. The press needs to look at how ambitious this was for our district and get away from colloquial issues, that this was important, it was a game changer. All those words have been used today. It will take us years to recover if this is not reinstated, and that is my fear. However, I do think it's imperative that the Secretary of State and the Chancellor do come to this region, because very often we have civil servants based at Westminster looking at this region on a map, on a computer screen. I think we just need them in this district, that we need to show them what it is, what we have to offer, and how that pause button needs to be unpaused. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Stephen, you were in before, but I'll let you in again.
Chair, no, just very briefly, I suppose just to make the broader point, fully agree with Councillor Victor Warrington. Victor said earlier that in reference to the British government, they don't really care about us over here. He's 100% right. We've been saying that for years. 250,000 pensioners in this part of Ireland is going to miss out on the winter fuel payment. And £250 million now of funding for the Mid-Southwest growth deal has now been paused. That's £250 million in regeneration and economic development powers that could be lost from this area. And then Casement Park, Chair, Casement Park could have brought in £106 million worth of revenue into the north if it had been built in time to host the Euros. All these things have been withdrawn from us by the British government. And it's very important to note that not one person living here has cast one vote for the likes of Hilary Benn or Rachel Reeves or Keir Starmer. After the Good Friday Agreement, we would have hoped that these people would have moved to one side, and that politicians from this part of the world who are capable and well able to step forward and make decisions directly impacting the people that they represent and that are elected by the people. But unfortunately, time and time again, we're seeing British Secretary of States basically front and centre in terms of the day-to-day affairs of here, legacy, whole debacle, and now they're basically, as Diana says, have pulled the rug from under our feet as we're trying to get powers to build up our own local economy, make decisions for ourselves, constantly just undermining the work that we're doing here. And frankly, we're sick of it, to be honest, Chair, sick of it. That's my final point. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Earl, your hand's still up. You don't want in quick again?
Chair, if I may come on very, very quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it is worth bearing in mind that the most important, or one of the most important projects that we had was A4 in a skilled Southern Relief bypass. And if we did attend the Ardoin with Minister O'Dowd and also the Finance Minister on the day, along with myself and Councillor Riley, so to do a launch of that. And that was over years in the making. And it was worth even bearing in mind that time too. There was very little media coverage of that event. It took weeks to get it into the press. And that was a good news story for Fermanagh and Omagh. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Earl. I'm aware that we've got a proposal from Barry, and that has been seconded by Debbie. And we also had some ideas from other members in the chamber. I mean, I would be quite happy to hop one of the ministers into my pickup. There's been many important people in my pickup over the years, and take them through the traffic in town at the relevant times of the day. Last Friday, I was attending an event at the castle, and I, unusually for me, left home early, and I left at 3 to be at the castle at 4, and I didn't get there until 20 past 4. There was some of our longer lived members of our community were attending the event, and many of them had to park their cars at the library and at the old, as they called it, the housing executive and tax office, and walk over to the castle, and that was simply because the traffic was not moving, and I felt that was terrible. I managed to get driving in, and I felt bad actually, because they were walking in, and these were people. The car park was empty. If they could have made it round there, they could have got parked and just had to walk into the castle, but they had to walk over the top of the hill for an event, and it was very important to them, and to be put under pressure like that there to go to an event, I think was a disgrace, and this would have been solved with this one move. But I'm wondering, Barry, if David was in agreement, would you possibly amend yours to include that, and so as we have just one thing going forward?
Absolutely, Chair. Happy to incorporate the proposed actions, that David has offered. But just when you're in the Jeep, will you head for the Mellon area too, just outside Omagh, and out the Dublin Road, Duggery? There's a lot of things to be viewed there as well. Thank you.
Once they get into that pickup, the doors are locked. I'm going to, Councillor Mahan.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'm quite happy for those to be included. Now, I suppose the reason I mentioned going, because we don't want to come back in a month's time and have sent lots of letters and heard from nobody, or nobody's come to us. That's the reason I mentioned about going. I'm quite happy to go. It's just who'll go with me.
Okay, I think we can sort that when we get the time. Before I put this to the chamber, and I don't think there's going to be any issues when I do put it to the chamber, I'm going to allow the Chief Executive to come in with some summing up.
Well, Chair, thank you. It's maybe just to respond to a couple of the queries that were raised in the course of the discussion, and I appreciate members have referenced some of the projects, but I suppose just to say for completeness and to address also Councillor McElduff's query regarding industrial land, particularly in Omagh, really the origins of the Mid-South West Growth Deal were regarding what's known as a functional economic geography. So there are areas that work together for greater economic benefit. The Growth Deal was one financial lever that would be a catalyst for further economic development and regeneration and growth. Broadly speaking, for the Fermanagh and Omagh district, there's an investment of about 84 million, excluding private sector and council investment, likely to be in the region of 100 million to this district. The projects and all of the processes associated with growth deals, city and growth deals, are quite lengthy. So you work through what's known as a strategic outline case, an outline business case, and then a full business case. So the reason why projects sometimes change and in some cases actually are replaced over the lifetime of a city and growth deal process is because the economic viability changes. But at the current stage, the projects that the council has agreed and are included within the suite of projects for the Mid-South West Growth Deal are within infrastructure, the Enniskillen Southern Relief Bypass, the Quilca Lakelands Geopark, and the Ulster American Folk Park. And they were really intended to focus on the tourism regeneration, but also the very significant infrastructure deficit in the district. Beyond that, we had what was known as the digital and innovation pillar, and that's technically the Treasury money that matches the Northern Ireland executive money. That included, and again, I know was referenced earlier, a robotics centre at Caffrey, which is really a centre of excellence for agri-food, a key sector for this district, and also looking very much at the green credentials and the renewable credentials, the development of a green hydrogen distribution network, looking at a construction innovation centre of excellence, and the development of an investment challenge fund, which would allow private sector businesses to draw down capital grants of very significant scale into the hundreds of thousands. So all of those are now at risk. And our understanding is the Enniskillen bypass, which we had previously been advised earlier this year, had been decoupled really from the deal to allow the procurement process to commence, that is also at risk. So as members have highlighted, it's certainly a very serious situation. Specifically in relation to the industrial lands, there is what's known as a strategic outline case developed. At this stage, we are actively pursuing shared island funding for that because we do think shared island will be a more natural home. But in the event that some of those projects that I've outlined as part of the growth deal processes don't come to full fruition, then we would reconsider whether or not to put the industrial land in. But I suppose from Councillor McElduff's perspective, it is a live project for us, but we think it will actually have a different funded option into the future. And maybe just the final comment, Chair, as Anne had indicated in her briefing at the outset, I think our expectation is that within the next day or two, we will receive some further communication from the Department of Finance. So notwithstanding the proposals and the suggestions here this evening, and obviously the focus is that we would get the pause immediately overturned, there is also a significant programme of work that if that is not agreed to by the government, that we will have to meet the comprehensive spending review deadline of the 30th of October. So we will be reporting to you during that period. We're hoping to have clarity by the end of the week from both Treasury and the Department of Finance as to what is actually required. But members have already outlined the significant expenditure and effort that it has taken to get this far, and it would be certainly very concerning if we're now to embark on further financial expenditure to justify a deal that was already evidenced some years ago.
Thank you, Alison. You've all heard the proposal by Councillor McElduff and seconded by Councillor Coyle and amended following discussion in the chamber. Are we all in agreement? Thank you. So is there any correspondence? No. So finally we get to any other business, any other relevant and urgent business. I suppose the only thing was on my way into the chamber and I was cutting it fine for time, I got stopped by the press and they were setting up, and it was to announce that Mike Nesbitt has signed off finally on 32 million for a health centre in Lisnaskea, and I know Seamus it is on, yeah. So that's to be much welcomed in the gloom that we're in at the moment. At least that's something that we've got over the line.
Thanks, John. Yeah, that's what I was coming in on. I'm relieved more than anything at the announcement today, because in the current climate, you just never know what's going to be announced. I suppose I want to thank everybody in the council that has worked over the years to get this over the line, all the councillors from every party, the MLAs, the MPs, everybody that has worked for it, because if it has got built, and I presume it is going to be got built now, a state-of-the-art facility in the Nairn East area, they're hoping to have up to 16 GPs working from there. It would really be a game changer for our part of the world, and so just well done to everyone, and just fingers crossed that nothing happens that stalls it any longer, for it has been so long. I was a young fellow when it was talked about first, believe it or not, and so it's great to have that announcement today.
Okay, thank you, Seamus. Victor, I see you online there.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You know, and I thank Seamus there for his comments, because we all parties was very involved in lobbying for this over the years, and I know certainly I was as well. And you know, it's something that's going to benefit everybody in the Air and East area, and especially around Lisnaskea, and with the closure of Rosslea and Newton Butler, and indeed to some degree Maguire's Bridge, the pressure that was put on the Maple Centre was very, very difficult. And then in the middle of it all, we had COVID, which obviously caused a lot of problems as well. But this is good news today, and certainly I hope it's seen as that. It's good news for the people of the Lisnaskea area and the Air and East area. I know it's not just going to jump out of the ground overnight. It's going to take probably a couple of years to get it there, but it's obviously there's going to be progress made now, and we're going to see shovels in the ground and what have you. So certainly, I think this is something to be welcomed by all parties and by everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Victor. And Councillor Barry McElduff from the Chamber.
Thank you, Chair. And can I congratulate our Air and East colleagues on this breakthrough? This is very, very important. It's great news. Seamus said that he was a young fellow and all of that when first campaigning. Paddy McGowan used to say that he had black hair whenever this was first campaigned for, you know, something like that. He always put it in that context. But I want to declare an interest as a practice user of Carrickmore Health Centre. And I want to point out that historically there has been a link between the priority that was attached to Carrickmore as being the second priority in the southern sector of the Western Health Trust area. Lisnaskea was always up there on the basis of need, and Carrickmore was second. So I would propose that we write to Mike Nesbitt asking where Carrickmore sits on the priority list. It does have 10,000 plus patient population, and the accommodation is not fit for purpose, much too small. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Stephen.
Just a second, that, Chairman.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, thank you. And I have Councillor Eddie Roof online.
Thanks, Chair. I'll not go on too long, but just to say that it's great to see this confirmed by Department of Health. Long overdue for Lisnaskea and for Air and East as a whole. This should hopefully start us to see the multidisciplinary team be rolled out into the rural areas. We've seen it rolled out in urban areas, in more affluent areas, unfortunately, and we have lagged behind on that front. So this should be hopefully the impetus to get that across the line, because that will go a long way to improving access to healthcare for people all across the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. And Garvin McPhillips, Councillor Garvin McPhillips.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add my sentiments also after the announcement by the Health Minister today. It's really excellent news, and it's been a long time coming. I know I'm not about the council that long, but all local political representatives, past and present, have been working on this a long time. So it's really excellent news, and it's great to have the green light. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes the business. You've heard a proposal by Councillor McElduff, seconded by Councillor McCann, that we write to the Minister to see where the Carrickmore Health Centre sits in the order of priorities. Everybody agree with that? Thank you. So that concludes the business. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you all later on.